Chapter 556, Unfathomable. The figure was so fast that naked eyes were barely able to catch it, and it traversed the distance of 100 to 200 meters within seconds before it appeared before Tang Xiu. There is no need for him to make a call. Since little brother wants to see me, then I'll naturally fulfill your wish. A sage-like old man with behavior like that of an immortal smiled. He had loose long hair and was barefoot, and seemed indifferent toward the 50-plus members of the martial school. After a short observation, Tang Xiu brushed past his side and then sat down on the chair Jiang Mentian had just used. He then tilted his leg and smilingly said, "I've never seen you. But since you're also a Daoist, your strength surely is remarkable. That speed you just showcased should have some part of your full strength, shouldn't it?" 20%. The barefooted old man still kept his smile as he stretched out two of his fingers. Tang Xiu clapped his hands and smilingly said, "That's really awesome. 20% of your full strength, yet you can achieve such a feat. It seems that your cultivation is not low. However, can you tell me how fast can you keep that speed if the array laid out in the entire of this martial arts school is lifted?" The complexion of the barefooted old man finally changed. The smile on his face receded and a glint sparked in his eyes. He shot Tang Xiu a deep look and asked, "May I ask who this little brother is?" "I'm Tang Xiu," said Tang Xiu lightly. "I haven't heard of you." The barefooted old man shook his head. "But considering the fact you can see the array I laid out here, that means you're quite skillful yourself, to the extent that you're on par with me. There was someone from Haiqing province who came to visit me back then, yet he wasn't able to find out the abstruse principles here." Haiqing province? Is it Miao Wentong? Do you know Miao Wentong? Asked Tang Xiu a strange tone. The barefooted old man nodded and smilingly said, "That little fella has good talent, and chanced upon a very good opportunity as well. His cultivation is even able to achieve. Shortly put, he can be considered a genius. But you easily surpass him. Right, if my guess is correct, you should be someone from the Everlasting Feast Hall, yes?" "How did you see it?" asked Tang Xiu. "For one to be able to bring out 8 experts at a time like you, apart from the Everlasting Feast Hall, there's only Dong Beihu, the Amur tiger, who can do such a feat in China. However, Dong Beihu has been hiding in the shadows lately, and little has he strolled around over the past few decades. Moreover, he's kind of unwilling to step his feet on Jingmen Island. Hence my guess of you coming from the Everlasting Feast Hall, for its HQ resides here." Vroom. The roars of the cars came from afar. 2 Audi sedans drove directly and stopped in front of the crowd. Tang Xiu, who originally intended to ask the barefooted old man about Dong Beihu, immediately knitted his brow since he was interrupted by the sudden arrival of the other party. As the car's doors opened, 4 big men in black suits quickly stood in front of the car, whereas a young man came out from the rear door and respectfully invited a middle-aged man to come out. What's happening here? Did some people really dare to make trouble in the Hero's Crest Martial School? After Ouyang Wenjin got out of the car, he looked at the injured members of the martial school around. A shocked expression was immediately painted his face, especially when he saw the miserable-looking Jiang Mentian, who was beaten black and blue and was sitting on the ground at this moment. His pale and bloodless appearance gave him a shock that was very difficult to add up again. He came to visit Jiang Mentian, but never imagined to encounter such a scene. At this moment Tang Xiu had already recognized Ouyang Wenjin. He met him at the charity party but hadn't actually had the time to converse with him in person. The barefooted old man glanced at Ouyang Wenjin. He ignored him and looked at Tang Xiu instead and continued speaking. "Can this little brother give this old man face and conclude today's matter here? I just chanced upon a fellow practitioner, thus we naturally must compare notes." Tang Xiu shook his head. "I've always heard that China is a great nation where countless talented people are hidden, and the strong are like clouds. It would really be a pity if I were to waste this opportunity after being so fortunate to meet one this time. This old man would perhaps be interested in comparing notes with you if you had cultivated for a few more decades. But you're too young, little brother. Forget it, I'll pass the chance. After shooting the barefooted old man a glance, Tang Xiu directly got up from the chair. He cupped his fist toward Ouyang Wenjin in front and said, "Is there something you need here, family head Ouyang?" Ouyang Wenjin felt that Tang Xiu looked somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen his face. After hesitating for a moment, he smiled and said, "My coming this time is actually to visit Vice Schoolmaster Jiang. But I never thought I would encounter such an unexpected scene. Anyhow, this little brother is." Tang Xiu waved his hand and said, "Please don't speak to like this. If Ouyang Lulu and Ouyang Lei learn that they are one generation younger than I am, I'm afraid they will keep nagging and chattering in my ears endlessly. My name is Tang Xiu, family head Ouyang should have heard about me." Tang Xiu? Staring blankly for a while, Ouyang Wenjin then astonishedly spoke, "You are that Tang Xiu? Sure enough, you're really a striking talent and a fine-looking young man. My daughter's vision is really good." Cough, cough. Tang Xiu understood the meaning behind Ouyang Wenjin's remark. After coughing twice, he forced a wry smile and said, "Family head Ouyang, Lulu and I are only good friends. I hope you don't misunderstand. That's an affair between the two of you and must be settled by yourselves." Ouyang Wenjin waved his hand and smiled. "But, why are you here? What are you?" While pointing to Han Qinggu, Tang Xiu replied, "The people of this Hero's Crest martial school are too unbridled. They dared to seize my teacher and tied her up here in broad daylight. When I came over to take her back, they went so far so as to compel us to stay here, and said that we must pay a heavy price, hence the cause of this slight unpleasant scene." Upon hearing this, Ouyang Wenjin immediately shot Jiang Mentian a strange look. The barefooted old man himself was also not sure of what happened. But when he heard Tang Xiu's explanation, his face sank. He glared at Jiang Mentian, who was sitting on the ground and couldn't stand up, and coldly snorted, "Jiang Mentian, when I gave you the responsibility to manage the martial school, I never thought that your courage would unexpectedly grow so big that you would go so far as to permit abduction of women." With a bitter expression, Jiang Mentian said, "Schoolmaster, this has nothing to do with me. This was Huang Shiqing's doing. I also learned about the matter afterward. It's just that when I came here, this young man said that he wanted to destroy our martial school's plaque, so I just—" "Who is Huang Shiqing?" In a flash, dozens of eyes looked at the ghastly pale Huang Shiqing. A cold glint flashed inside the barefooted old man's eyes. His finger flicked, as a stream of qi instantly shot out and penetrated Huang Shiqing's forehead, directly killing him. Hiss. The vast majority of the people around couldn't help but gasp cold air with greatly changed expressions. They never thought that the schoolmaster, who was always out, would unexpectedly be so merciless to directly kill Huang Shiqing. Of course, the most chilling scene was the schoolmaster's terrifying ability of killing him in a flash, more so that it was done from a dozen meters away. Such a method was really too frightening. Tang Xiu could only secretly sigh upon seeing the barefooted old man's action. Though he didn't want to give up on this matter at this point, the barefooted old man had intended to settle the matter by taking the culprit's life. He would no longer have a justifiable reason if he were to take an aggressive stance and forced him further. After being silent for a moment, he calmly said, "Since Huang Shiqing has already died, then the matter will end here. However, I can still accompany you to compare notes if you're willing to." After saying that, he stamped his foot on the ground. His star force blasted out through his shoe's sole and penetrated the ground in a flash. Boom. A faint thunderclap sounded in everyone's ears. Huh? It's so strange. The sun is shining, where does that thunder come from? Everyone subconsciously set their eyes on the sky. The barefooted old man raised his head and his facial expression instantly changed. He quickly pulled a jade token from his arm. Under his gaze, the token cracked and finally broke into several pieces. You. He suddenly looked up and stared at Tang Xiu with eyes full with disbelief. There's a common saying you should have heard before. Never judge a book by its cover, for the sea can never be measured with a bushel. As a fellow on the same path, I hope that the manifestation of appearances that your eyes can see doesn't make you confused and blinded. The manifestation of appearances? The barefooted old man's heart shuddered. An insight and enlightenment suddenly sparked inside his mind, as he immediately figured out the issue that had plagued and puzzled him for many years. I accept. At the same time the barefooted old man cupped his fists and spoke. His aura erupted and everyone in the surrounding could feel a strong pressure emanating from him. This pressure made many step back, whereas those on the ground were struggling toward the distance. Tang Xiu waved his hands to protect Han Qingwu and Ouyang Wenjin from the pressuring aura. With a curious expression, he carefully observed the barefooted old man. He didn't expect that the barefooted old man would have a sudden enlightenment in his mental state due to a few words from him, causing his mental state to enhance by leaps and bounds. A few minutes later, the barefooted old man sat cross-legged, closed his eyes and deeply immersed himself in cultivation. Tang Xiu sighed inwardly. It seemed it would be impossible to compare notes with this old man today, though it also gladdened him. Because, the higher the cultivation of this barefooted old man, the more force he could exert to find out his actual strength. Family head Ouyang, I'll take my leave first since I have some other matters to attend to. Tang Xiu nodded to Ouyang Wenjin. He then grabbed Han Qingwu's hand and turned toward the 4 black SUVs. Ouyang Wenjin loudly shouted, Tang Xiu, are you free tomorrow? How about visiting my Ouyang residence? All right, answered Tang Xiu. When he got into the car, the 4 cars then roared and drove away. After leaving the Heroes Crest Martial School, Tang Xiu turned his head and glanced back and indifferently said, if I remember correctly, that guy called Huang Shiqing has a little brother whose arm is broken. I don't want to have more troubles arising in the future. Do you understand what to do? I'll take care of it, boss, respectfully said the sturdy man in the front passenger seat. Han Qingwu's face slightly changed. She grabbed Tang Xiu's hand and hurriedly said, Tang Xiu, are you going to kill Huang Shiyang? Huang Shiqing died already. To whom do you think Huang Shiyang will demand this account from? Tang Xiu said lightly. Huang Shiqing dared to detain you for his younger brother. Huang Shiyang will surely take revenge for his older brother. He will surely come to kill you in the future, and I reckon that he will include me in as well. Since we are already aware that such a trouble will come for us in the future, then why not eradicate the root of the problem now? Chapter 557, Uprooting the Source of Problem. At Jingmen Island's first public hospital, inside a VVIP ward. There was only one sick bed inside, with a lot of potted plants placed in the corner, along with a television and refrigerator. Huang Shiyang rested his head on a pillow with his arm cast with plaster and suspended with a bandage. He was scowling out of shame, while a young girl sitting on the edge of the bed looked seemingly nice on the surface yet disgust flashed in her eyes from time to time. Wen, call my brother and ask him if he has taken care of that bitch. The girl didn't speak and silently picked up her mobile phone. Just as she was about to dial, the ward's door was forced open as a crew-cut youth rushed to the bed and called out in panic, Second brother, hurry and pack your things. A huge matter just happened. What matter? Is it related to my big brother? Huang Shiyang's expression changed and quickly asked. The crew-cut youth anxiously said, Big brother has died. He was killed by the schoolmaster himself. I suspect that the other party won't let this matter go, and they will surely act to get you. Hence, you must not stay in the hospital. Quickly pack up your things and leave Jingmen Island. The farther the better. Huang Shiyang abruptly sat straight in disbelief, and then shouted, What fucking nonsense are you talking about? My big brother, how could he die? How come the schoolmaster himself personally killed my big brother? Second brother, you just provoked a terrifying figure. The other party practically trashed our martial school because of you. More than 50 instructors and trainees in our school had their legs broken by them, including the vice schoolmaster. The schoolmaster suddenly appeared and, though he quelled and settled this matter, he actually went so far as to kill Big Brother personally. It's evident his purpose. That is to resolve the grievance between both parties. Huang Shiyang's eyes turned bloodshot as fury and hatred burst out from within. He gritted his teeth and said, Wenwen, help me pack up my stuff. Third brother, tell me who the other party is. He's called Tang Xiu, he should be the man of that woman. The crew-cut youth said. He's a young man and is apparently still in his 20s. But each and every one of the 8 bodyguards he brought is very terrifying. Our vice schoolmaster is a martial arts grandmaster, but only one of those 8 men fought him and yet vice schoolmaster was unable to fight back at all. Right, that person seems to be someone from the Everlasting Feast Hall. Huang Shiyang shuddered inside and fear filled his heart. He was perfectly aware of the vice schoolmaster's strength, a martial arts grandmaster who had managed the Heroes Crest Martial School for nearly 2 decades and rarely had equal opponents. Everlasting Feast Hall and Tang Xiu. I'll remember this. The fear inside Huang Shiyang's heart quickly disappeared and was replaced with hatred. After getting out of bed, he quickly changed his clothes. Though his arm was in the way, he put on the coat and quickly left the ward a few minutes later. At the HQ of the Everlasting Feast Hall, Tang Dong was dressed in a suit and wore black sunglasses while standing straight before the window of the box, watching quietly the parking lot in the distance. There was a folder containing very important documents placed on the table behind him. Knock, knock. The private box's door was knocked, and Gu Xiaoxue strode through the door in a lotus-like footwork. She looked at Tang Dong, who just snapped out of his reverie, as she smiled faintly and said, Mr. Tang, my boss is already on the way back. He is expected to be back here in half an hour. Since it's only half an hour, then I'll wait for him here. Tang Dong smilingly said. Anyhow, Gu Xiaoxue, we run a similar business. I hope we can cooperate in a certain area if possible. For instance? Asked Gu Xiaoxue with a faint smile. According to what I know, the Everlasting Feast Hall has many experts, while the main ingredient of my seaside straight manners dishes is the meat of fierce beasts. If possible, can I buy it from you? Mr. Tang, please wait for my boss to arrive to talk about this. I'm sure he can make you satisfied, said Gu Xiaoxue with a smile. All right, then. I'll talk to him about it after the important discussion is finished, said Tang Dong with a smile. Beijing, at the Yao family's residence. Yao Qingzuan looked ashen and livid while sitting on a fauteuil without saying a word. Yao Chengqing, on the other hand, looked furious. He clenched his fists and green veins were protruding on his forehead, whereas a refined-looking middle-aged man wearing glasses standing beside him lowered his head with a tense expression. Finally, Yao Qingzuan said through gritted teeth, for a long time has Tang Guisheng been forbearing, and he deliberately gave his face under the soles of our feet. All of it was just to conspire such a huge scheme. Prior to this, I was able to discern everything that happened around the Tang family, so I was confident to pinpoint and pinch their door of life. Only now do I realize that it was something the Tang family deliberately put on the surface. Then, what are we going to do now, father? Yao Chengqing spoke with an angry expression on his face. Clam Island and Resting Cemetery Island have been both won by the Tang family, and our family's plan was forced to be put on hold. Also, Qingting is now missing and we don't know his whereabouts nor we know whether he's still alive or dead. Also, he was in the possession of some documents that are very important to us. Yao Qingzuan clenched his fists and spoke in a heavy tone, we can only choose another island since they already took those 2. As of now, we can't estimate the depth of the Tang family, hence we can only keep away from their spearhead for the time being. Send my order to the members of our family and all those families who are on good terms with us. They are not to have any clashes with the Tang family in the near future. Father, don't tell me we won't take this matter into account? Asked Yao Chengqing. Naturally we won't let this matter go like this. Yao Qingzuan coldly snorted. I've invited someone from the northeast a couple days ago, and he should arrive in Beijing in a few days. As long as he helps us, let alone the Tang family, even if there are 10 of them, they won't be able to stop us. Do you mean Dongbei Hu, the Amur tiger? Yao Chengqing was shocked. I had once saved Dongbei Hu's life in the past, he owes us a huge favor. Yao Qingzuan nodded. I originally didn't plan to use this favor to deal with the Tang family, because I thought that we could easily eradicate them by ourselves. However, I never thought that the Tang family was hiding so deep. It's apparent that we won't be able to deal with them if we don't use this favor. Yao Qingqing's expression flickered and he quickly said, Father, shall we pass the news of Dongbei Hu's arrival to the other families? With the Amur tiger as a deterrent force, perhaps those neutral parties will also flock to our family. We'll keep quiet about this matter for the time being. Yao Qingzuan shook his head. After we eradicate the Tang family, the other forces will naturally know that we did it with the aid of Dongbei Hu by that time. When that time comes and us being on good terms with him known by them, perhaps there will be no need for us to publicize it, and those neutral forces will naturally move to support our family. Yao Chengqing fell into his thoughts for a while before smilingly nodding and saying, I understand, Father. I never thought you still had such a lethal trump card. Then the Tang family, Jingmen Island, at the Everlasting Feast Hall. After Tang Xiu came back, he brought Han Qingguo, who had been silent for a while, to his residence. Just as he was about to have a talk with her, a core member of the Everlasting Feast Hall rushed over and told him that Tang Dong was waiting for him. Teacher Han, there's something I need to do. Have a rest first, we'll chat at dinner time. Han Qingguo was silent for a moment before saying, Can you not address me as Teacher Han later? My name is Han Qingguo, and people who are close to me call me Qingguo. Tang Xiu's brows slightly creased, but he nodded and said, I know. 5 or 6 minutes later, he came to the box where Tang Dong was in. While looking at Tang Dong who greeted him, Tang Xiu smiled and said, Uncle Dong, is there any news from Beijing? Damn, I can't hide anything from you. Tang Dong smilingly said. That's right, our family has successfully acquired those 2 islands, Clam Island and Resting Cemetery Island. And we have also acquired the approved official documents for them. Anyhow, here are the documents. I was also told to tell you that you can do anything you will do on these 2 islands. Is there any reaction from the Yao family? Asked Tang Xiu. What can they do? Tang Dong grinned. Our family acted very quickly. We opened all the nodes of our network and connections, thus acquiring the approved documents. Even if the Yaos were to go all out to reverse this desperate situation, they won't be able to do anything at all. I'm pretty sure the old codger of the Yaos is stamping about in rage right now. A hint of a smile outlined on the corner of Tang Xiu's mouth as he nodded and said, We have literally cut off their mustache and I'm sure that the head of the Yao family is definitely furious. However, I reckon that they must be re-examining our family right now. At this time, what our family must do is to restrain ourselves while at the same time taking precautions against anything, just in case the Yao family is unable to swallow this result and launch and strike at us. Tang Dong noted Tang Xiu's words in his heart as he nodded and said, I know. I believe that uncle understands this as well, but I'll convey your words to my father, so as to make the elders discuss it. All right, let us not talk about this topic anymore, said Tang Xiu. I think the same. Tang Dong smilingly said. Anyhow, your Everlasting Feast Hall has many experts. Do they have some time to go hunting in the sea, by chance? To be honest, the seaside straight manor is kind of short of fierce beasts' meat and we are unable to meet the demand due to the short supply. So, in order to make more money, you see. Tang Xiu looked blank before he burst into laughter and immediately said, "Let us not hurry to talk about that, shall we? Just wait for some time and I assure you that the problem with the fierce beast's meat will be fully tackled." As a matter of fact, I was deliberately machinating plans to acquire these 2 islands, and one of the plans was to rear fierce beasts on one of these 2 islands. You what? Tang Dong was dumbfounded. Could it be possible to rear and breed fierce beasts? You don't need to be that shocked, Uncle Dong. Tang Xiu chuckled. We can rear and breed fierce beasts as long as we have enough strength. After we're done with things to scale up the island, I'll personally take you to visit it. Tang Dong gulped down and said with a shocked expression, "Xiu, this act of yours is simply too crazy, you know that? But of course, it'd be really great if you can rear and breed fierce beasts. Anyways, Uncle Dong, those people sent by the Seaside Straight Manor are currently in training." Tang Xiu smiled. "I'm sure it won't take a long time for their strength to increase rapidly. I think that your most important task as of now is to select reliable and trusted people among your men and cultivate them. The Yao family wants to expand the size of their armed forces, so our family must not fall behind." Chapter 558, Display of Might at Sea. The warm sunshine shined on Earth and the gentle sea breeze brought a cool feeling. Before the parking lot of the Everlasting Feast Hall, a total of 50 experts stood on the edge of the parking lot in an orderly manner. They looked solemn and quietly waited for Tang Xiu's instructions, whereas Gu Xiaoxue, in her usual white dress, stood beside Ji Qimei. There was slight regret and unwillingness in her eyes, however. "Xiaoxue, I need Ji Qimei to go with me, while Light and Dark have also left, hence leaving only you to stay here. Wait here until we solve the threat in Resting Cemetery Island. Besides, the matter of breeding and rearing fierce beasts there will be handed over to you," said Tang Xiu with a faint smile. "Rest assured. I'll protect Master's safety," nodded Gu Xiaoxue. Tang Xiu nodded, as his eyes then caught the arrival of a barefooted, long-haired old man. The old man looked to be walking leisurely, but the speed he showed was almost as fast as what ordinary people could run at their limits. In just 10 seconds the barefooted old man had already appeared in front of their group, all smiling. "Daoist Tang, thank you very much." The barefooted old man cupped his fist and bowed toward Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile and waved his hand. 2 streams of qi immediately propped up the barefooted old man's hands. As his waist straightened up, he lightly smiled at him and said, "You don't have to be that polite. May I know how I should address you, senior?" "Daoist Tang can call me Daoist Su Yang," said the barefooted old man with a smile. Tang Xiu nodded. "For Daoist Su Yang to visit here, is it because you're ready to accept my challenge?" The barefooted old man shook his head and smilingly said, "Though I'm very aware that chancing upon someone of equal match is indeed a joyous occasion that is worth celebrating, my cultivation has drastically improved. So, I'm afraid that Daoist Tang is." "Humph." Ji Qimei, who stood behind Tang Xiu, let out a cold snort as a terrifying aura rushed toward Daoist Su Yang and shrouded him in no time. "What?" Daoist Su Yang's body turned stiff as dread and panic appeared in his expression. His eyes landed on Ji Qimei, and the dread in his heart instantly multiplied. He felt a chill ran through all over his body, although the terrifying torrential aura only flashed past him. After breakthrough of full big realm, Daoist Su Yang's heart was filled with confidence since he found that his current realm was completely different from what it used to be. He believed that even if he met Dongbei Hu, he would be at least on par with him. But, who on earth could the old woman in front of him be? From the pressuring aura she emanated out, Daoist Su Yang could clearly feel that the release of her sliver of aura would be able to kill him if she wished to. This made him feel like he was just a droplet of water and the old woman in front of him was a vast ocean. Su Yang pays respect to senior. Beads of sweats perspired from his forehead as he spoke with fearful and apprehensive manner. Tang Xiu's brows slightly knitted. He turned his head to Ji Chime with an annoyed expression. All right, you don't need to scare him like that. It's normal for him to have such thought. Besides, too many people judge others by their appearance, to begin with. Yes. Ji Chime hurriedly nodded. Even though the gap between Tang Xiu's present cultivation level and hers was like a chasm, Tang Xiu was once a colossal figure who stood proudly above the myriad of races of myriad worlds. That gigantic figure had long been carved deep inside her soul. Hence, she respected and feared Tang Xiu at the same time. Taoist Su Yang was taken aback. He looked at Ji Chime, who wore reverential expression, and then looked at Tang Xiu, who looked displeased. His lips twitched a few times, but he didn't know what to say. He could hardly believe that such a terrifying powerhouse was so humble and respectful toward Tang Xiu. Did he really judge him by his appearance? Could it be that his cultivation level was much stronger than this monstrously terrifying expert? Tang Xiu looked at Taoist Su Yan and said, since you don't want to accept my challenge, I won't insist and force you. You've expressed your gratitude, you can go back if you have no other matters. Taoist Tang, I came here because I have some matters I really need to discuss with you, actually, said Taoist Su Yan quickly. Please say. Tang Xiu waved his hand and replied. I was able to have a breakthrough in my mental state due to your instructions, and my cultivation is progressing by leaps and bounds. Hence, I'm planning to go to the northeast to challenge Dongbei Hu the Amur Tiger. If Taoist Tang has time, would you like to go with me? I didn't have time to ask you about that before. Tang Xiu was surprised. What and who exactly is this Dongbei Hu you're talking about? Is he a very powerful cultivator, by chance? Yes, he's a cultivator with a very formidable cultivation. His cultivation level was nearly the same as mine a few decades ago. But rumor has it that he has made a breakthrough in his strength, so I want to visit him to compare notes in order to measure as to what extent our strength has grown to. When will you go? Asked Tang Xiu after pondering for a moment. See to your affairs first, I can go at any time, said Taoist Su Yang. Tang Xiu pondered for a moment before saying, there's something I need to do at the sea first. If you have time, you might as well come with me. We can immediately go when the things here are done. All right. Taoist Su Yang directly agreed. Even though he didn't know what Tang Xiu was going to do at the sea, he was sure that it was something that had an important purpose given the obvious presence of these experts, cultivators, and the terrifying Ji Chime. Get in the car. Tang Xiu waved his hand and quickly entered the car parked nearby. 20 identical black cars slowly left the everlasting feast hall and went toward the harbor. They then headed to the liner that had been prepared in advance and sailed toward Clam Island and Resting Cemetery Island. At dusk, the liner anchored on the northern side of Resting Cemetery Island. With an order from Tang Xiu, only 2 people were left to stay on the ship, whereas the rest disembarked on the island. Form a group of 10 men and divide into 5 men subgroups. Capture as many fierce beasts on this island as possible and immediately send them to the center of the island after you caught them. I'll be waiting for you all there. After Tang Xiu spoke, he rushed to the center of Resting Cemetery Island along with Ji Chime, Taoist Su Yang, and 8 experts of Everlasting Feast Hall. Those 8 experts were carrying the prepared materials needed to lay out a feng shui array. After they came to the heart of the island, Tang Xiu looked at Ji Chime and asked, who will lay out the array, you or me? What kind of array does Venerable Lord want to lay out here? Asked Ji Chime back with a respectful expression. Impenetrable alloy array, amassing spirit array, and myriad slaying swords array. Said Tang Xiu. The amassing spirit array must be arranged with a 36 overlapping and interlinked layers method. In order to maintain the concentration of spiritual energy on this island, it must be able to draw the heaven and earth spiritual energy within a radius of a few hundred kilometers. Venerable Lord is too honored for the job. Let this subordinate deal with this trivial matter. Said Ji Chime. Off you go, then. When the arrays are properly arranged, we will tame all the fierce beasts on this island. Tang Xiu said with a nod. Understood. As Ji Qimei waved her hands, the array's materials carried by the 8 stocky men all floated up. Her figure then streaked across the sky and she stood in the air 100 meters above the island the instant after. Taoist Su Yang's expression greatly changed and his pupils violently contracted and shrunk. After a moment's silence, he similarly flew up and stood in the air a fair distance from Ji Qimei, and was preparing to see the method she would use to lay the array. As a matter of fact, he was also able to lay out geomancy arrays, for instance, the array in the Hero's Crest Martial School, which he laid out by himself in the underground of his martial school a long time ago. Although the might of that array was very small and could only accelerate his speed, it was, nevertheless, still able to gather spiritual energy, albeit weakly. But it was already at the limit he could achieve. Of the 3 types of formation arrays Tang Xiu had just said, except for this amassing spirit array that he had a shallow knowledge of, he had never heard of the other 2. Ji Qimei naturally saw Taoist Su Yang, but she didn't pay any attention to him at all. She was an immortal. Although she was very ordinary in the immortal world and her current power suffered a drop, the shallow abilities Taoist Su Yang possessed were nothing in her eyes. After a simple observation of Resting Cemetery Island, Ji Qimei kept waving one of her hands, and the materials inside the bags kept flying to the surrounding and penetrated deep into the soil of the island. At the same time, her other hand continued making series of rune seals. Array, start. No more than 3 minutes after her prior action, Ji Qimei then lifted her arms and loudly shouted. From deep inside the underground, a special aura fluctuated and rose up from Resting Cemetery Island. In the distance, Taoist Su Yang was dumbfounded as he saw the changes happening on the island. He gasped with astonishment upon seeing the entire Resting Cemetery Island disappear before his eyes. The most appalling thing to him was that the world energy around was akin to a tidal wave that flocked toward Resting Cemetery Island. As he tried to absorb the spiritual energy, he was shocked to find that, despite his all-out effort to absorb it, he couldn't even draw the heaven and earth spiritual energy into his body. How is this possible? Ji Qimei's figure flashed and appeared next to Taoist Su Yang. Her skinny palm grabbed his shoulder as they then appeared in front of Tang Xiu in the next moment. The arrays have been laid out, my lord, reported Ji Qimei after releasing Taoist Su Yang. Good. Tang Xiu nodded and praised, you laid out the arrays much more relaxed and faster than if I did it myself. Go with them to the southern side of the island. There are a lot of savage beasts over there. Catch and bring all of them here. Understood. Ji Qimei then brought the 8 stocky men and left. Tang Xiu then turned his head to look at the flabbergasted Taoist Su Yan and lightly said, don't show that shocked face and make a fuss over a trivial matter, all right? Your ability is still too shallow and there are many things you can't do yet. But don't worry, though. Continue to cultivate well and you'll be able to do that after your cultivation is promoted further in the future. Taoist Tang, who is this subordinate of yours? Taoist Su Yang's lips twitched and asked in a bitter voice. She is too terrifying. I even have a hunch that she can destroy most of China's territory with her strongest attack if she so wished. Chapter 559, An inexperienced man who has seen little and regards many things as strange. Destroying most of China? Tang Xiu let out a sneer. Your outlook is truly like seeing the sky from the bottom of a well. The entire earth would explode if she were to strike it with everything she has. Your vision is way too narrow. You've been stranded here for far too long and have never seen the strength of those who can be called as genuine powerhouses. Forget it, the present you won't understand anything even if I tell you. Just cultivate diligently later. If your aptitude is good and you chance upon some opportunity again, you may be able to tread on that step in the future. How could that be possible? Taoist Su Yan exclaimed in alarm. An existence that can destroy the entire earth with a single blow should be at the very least one who has soared and ascended to heaven, and become an immortal. Earth's spiritual arteries have practically dried up and the spiritual energy here is thin. Needless to say, of becoming an immortal, there should be no more experts who can reach the nascent soul stage, no? If so, what do you think her cultivation level is? Asked Tang Xiu lightly. Taoist Su Yang hesitated for a moment before replying, beyond the nascent soul stage? The soul formation stage? Soul formation stage? A slight mocking look appeared in Tang Xiu's eyes. He learned from the Miao Wendong and Xiaomingzhen that the cultivation levels for the cultivators on Earth were separately divided into stages, such as the Qi refining, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, soul formation, body integration, great ascension, and crossing tribulation stages, whereas each stage was divided into 4 levels, respectively, early, middle, high, and peak. At present, despite all the experts from the Everlasting Feast Hall having the foundation of true Qi, the strongest among them was only at the peak level of the Qi refining stage, whereas the Miao Wendong and Xiaomingzhen were approximately at the peak level of foundation establishment stage. On the other hand, Gu Xiaoxue, light and dark, had broken through the golden core stage. Gu Xiaoxue had just broken through the golden core stage a few days ago. However, Tang Xiu couldn't deny the fact that Taoist Su Yang was also a very formidable existence among cultivators on Earth. He now had reached the middle level of the golden core stage, and only light and dark could be his match. Let's go. Since you have accompanied me here, help me pack up the savage beasts on this island. I'll be rearing these beasts in this island later. So if we can't thoroughly contain their wild nature, raising them will be quite troublesome. Do you want to rear and breed fierce beasts on this island? Asked Taoist Su Yan, astonished.
Yeah.
These beasts are good materials and resources to be used in cultivation, in my opinion. Tang Xiu said. If I can train and enlighten a few of them, maybe I can get a few good mounts in the future. Cough, cough. Despite having a strong Tao heart and mental state, Taoist Su Yang still choked after hearing Tang Xiu's words. To enlighten and train fierce beasts, how big the capability one must have to tame those savage beasts. And, even getting a few of them as mounts? All of a sudden, it dawned on him that his more than 100 years of life turned out to only give him a very minute and narrow vision. Tang Xiu's actions, as well as what that terrifying powerhouse Ji Qimei had done, were beyond his cognition and the limit of what he dared to think. He felt that in just a short time of contact with Tang Xiu, he found himself entering a completely new territory, a magnificent world full of novelties and mysteries. Taoist Tang, then your cultivation level is, yet, Taoist Su Yang couldn't bear asking. I don't know exactly how strong I am at present, to be honest. Tang Xiu chuckled. This is exactly the very reason why I wanted to spar with you. If I can defeat you, that means that my strength is comparable to that of an expert at the golden core stage. Taoist Su Yang stared blankly, and asked with a horrified expression, you can see my cultivation level? Tang Xiu only glanced at him as his figure flashed forward to the distance. There were 2 mid-level fierce beasts wandering about on the island. When the feng shui array been arranged, they sensed that the island was not the same as before. Just as they were trying to figure out that unknown situation, they suddenly found a figure rushing toward them. The 2 fierce beasts immediately took stances, as though they were facing a formidable enemy, and glared at Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu's speed was extremely fast. 2 streams of qi rushed out and erupted as his fists hit the fierce beast's head. Needless to say, he exerted all of his strength through his fists to hit one of the 2 fierce beasts, but it only staggered back a few steps, raised its heads, and whined in pain. Roar! The other fierce beast stamped its feet, creating a ball of flame. At the moment the ball of flame rose, the beast soared to the air and bolted toward Tang Xiu. Its tens of centimeters sharp claws stretched out and were similarly covered with flame, as the beast attempted to directly grab and kill Tang Xiu. Excellent material. Tang Xiu's eyes lit up. A sharp dagger instantly appeared in his hand. His figure flashed and the sharp dagger cut off the 4 sharp claws of the fierce beast, and then they quickly entered his interspatial ring. Ho, ho. After clashing with Tang Xiu and being at a disadvantage, the 2 fierce beasts looked alarmed and scared. They quickly turned around and darted away without the slightest hesitation. Running away, eh? A sneer appeared on the corner of Tang Xiu's mouth. His speed was a level faster than the 2 savage beasts and quickly blocked their path as unceasing flashing afterimages of his fists continued, bombarding the 2 beasts like a stormy rain. As Daoist Su Yang arrived there, he happened to see the scene of Tang Xiu savagely beating the fierce beasts. His lips twitched a few times when he saw Tang Xiu's ferocious and aggressive actions. It must be noted that, as someone who took the Daoist path and became a cultivator, it had been a long time since he attacked with fists, since a few simple spells were already sufficed to solve all problems. Is he really a cultivator? The thought crossed his mind, yet he showed a bitter smile and shook his head. He then looked at Tang Xiu and called out, "Daoist Tang, isn't it enough for you to use some spells to devastate them? Our physique is indeed remarkable, but kicking and punching them using our strength is too wasteful." After delivering hundreds of savage kicks and punches in one breath, Tang Xiu halted his actions and turned to look at Daoist Su Yang, saying, "Using magic spells is indeed normal since you have formidable cultivation. I can tell you that if we are only comparing notes, I'm not necessarily better than you, but if we were mortal enemies and had a life and death combat, I have 80% certainty of killing you." Having said that, he pondered for a moment and continued, "Anyhow, I'll give you a present after we return." Despite being unable to believe Tang Xiu's words, Daoist Su Yang still asked with a confused expression, "What present?" "A membership card for the best gymnasium in Jingmen Island," said Tang Xiu calmly. "A membership card for a training center?" Daoist Su Yang's complexion was that of being at a loss between laughter and tears. "You're kidding me, Daoist Tang. I don't think there's any suitable training center in the world for me, considering my strength. I told you that you've been caging yourself in the bottom of a well, but I didn't expect your insight and experience to be so shallow as well." Tang Xiu said lightly. "As a cultivator, you think that as long as you have a very high cultivation level and strong mental state is enough already? You're completely mistaken. Dao cultivators are indeed very powerful, but there's another type of cultivation system in the world, fleshly body cultivation. The body is the foundation for each and every person. If one's body is not formidable enough, they will find themselves in a miserable state when they cross the tribulations in the future." Once in the past, Tang Xiu also believed that one could be called as a genuinely formidable powerhouse as long as he possessed high cultivation level and powerful mental force. Later on, after having undergone countless hardships and tribulations, it dawned upon that one's body was the foundation, as every high-rise building started with its foundation first. If the foundation was not adequately prepared or solid enough, even though one possessed high cultivation level, he would end up very miserable when he came across a genuine powerhouse. For fleshly body cultivators, they would eventually enter the journey to the Tao after they had finished tempering their bodies and used the spiritual force they had cultivated to aid them. When they reached perfection in their physique cultivation, by the time they had immortal physiques they would be able to erupt with terrifying might relying only on their bare hands. The physique of fleshly body cultivators was even comparable with the hardiness of immortal tools. Daoist Su Yang fell into silence. He didn't know whether he should believe Tang Xiu's words, because he couldn't accept a lot of contents in Tang Xiu's explanation. He even felt that Tang Xiu's words were somewhat exaggerated. Don't tell me he knows something about what happens when one is crossing tribulations? The thought crossed Daoist Su, though he immediately cast it away to the back of his head. He was perfectly aware of that his relationship with Tang Xiu at present could only be regarded as a casual acquaintance. It was far from being able to make Tang Xiu tell him some true secrets. However, he also firmly made up his mind to be on good terms with Tang Xiu, since he would probably obtain something that greatly benefited him in the future. After Tang Xiu had badly beaten the two savage beasts, he kicked their feet at will and only stopped until he saw they were unable to crawl up again. With a satisfied expression, he turned to Daoist Su Yang and said, "All right, don't just blindly try to fathom what I said. There are loads of savage beasts on this island, and their number perhaps amounts to hundreds. Help me give them some beatings." "All right, then let us separate here." Daoist Su Yang nodded and said. For the entire day, a total of 146 fierce beasts on Resting Cemetery Island were all badly beaten and ended up miserably, as they screeched, whined, and roared unceasingly one after another. Furthermore, Ji Qimei, who directly rushed to the south coast of Resting Cemetery Island, had captured over 1,000 fierce beasts there, and constantly attacked and savagely beat them. The originally wild and ferocious beasts had turned extremely docile after just a day's time, just like a flock of cute, small lambs. In the still of the night, Ji Qimei stood beside Tang Xiu, who was watching the dying beasts, and respectfully reported, "I just used my spiritual sense to check the surroundings, Lord. The number of fierce beasts within a radius of 200 kilometers number about over 3,600. However, my spiritual sense is in an impaired state and I was unable to investigate more than 200 meters in the deep sea, thus I don't know how many beasts there are beyond that range. Also, I can't find that terrifying fierce beast you mentioned to me." Tang Xiu was silent for a moment before slowly replying, "Let us capture and bring those 3,600 fierce beasts to Resting Cemetery Island first. We'll then make a trip down there. If we don't remove this threat, I'm afraid there will be a crisis in the future." Ji Qimei nodded silently. In the next 4 days, Tang Xiu and the Everlasting Feast Hall's experts, as well as Ji Qimei and Daoist Su Yang, formed a party and spent a lot of effort to catch more than 3,600 savage beasts on the Resting Cemetery Island, as the beasts trashed miserably one after another. "Let's go to the sea." Tang Xiu rushed into the sea after they finished. With her formidable strength, Ji Qimei directly released her immortal force to protect Tang Xiu, as the duo continued to sink deep into the seafloor. "Something is amiss here, Venerable Lord." Ji Qimei was originally very calm. After all, she still possessed her strength and didn't believe there was anything on Earth that could threaten her safety. After they submerged deep into the sea for 200+ meters, however, she keenly sensed that there were some abnormalities there. Chapter 560, The Weeping Divine Beast. With his vision greatly limited on the seafloor, Tang Xiu could only clearly see a few tens of meters in front of him, but he was keenly aware of the unusualness of the situation with Ji Qimei's reminder. It was very quiet and tranquil. The deeper they submerged, the more quiet it was. Originally, they could see a few fishes swimming once in a while, however, the deeper they went, the lesser the number of fishes entered their sight. But now, there was absolutely no sea life roaming within their sights at all. Such an abnormality must be caused by an unusual monster, an extremely abnormal one. "Qimei, use your spiritual sense to investigate this," said Tang Xiu, a solemn expression after he looked around. Ji Qimei forced a smile and shook her head. "I've used my spiritual sense to comb the surroundings, Lord, but I found a serious problem. My perception has been terribly suppressed by something here. There's even a special energy fluctuation from that direction about 20 kilometers from us, that completely bars my perception outside." Tang Xiu's expression changed as he said, "If I'm not mistaken in recognizing that direction, it should be the direction of Resting Cemetery Island, yes?"
Yeah.
"It's the direction of the Resting Cemetery Island," said Ji Qimei with a nod. "Also, this Resting Cemetery Island is very bizarre. There are no gray limestone rocks straight up beneath it, but deep seawater." Tang Xiu looked blank and said with a disbelieving expression, "You mean Resting Cemetery Island is practically floating on the sea surface?" "Yes, it's completely being suspended on the surface of the sea," said Ji Qimei. Tang Xiu's heartbeat raced. Countless thoughts unceasingly kept popping up inside his mind. He could now guess that there was a peerless vast array laid out beneath resting Cemetery Island. That array must have been arranged by an extremely powerful figure, since it's not only able to hold up resting Cemetery Island, but is also able to bar and isolate it from an immortal's perception. Let's go there and have a look. Finally, Tang Xiu made a decision and said in a heavy tone. With Ji Qimei here, he didn't believe there was anything on earth that could pose a danger to her. In just a few dozen breaths, Ji Qimei had already brought Tang Xiu to the bottom beneath resting Cemetery Island. Before their eyes, there was a layer of energy curtain emitting reddish golden light with a primitive and unsophisticated ever-changing Sanskrit line written on it. It was as if there was a roaming sentient spirit fish continuously wandering about in stream of lights. Qimei, can you break this array? After studying it for a long time and still unable to figure out the mystery of this light curtain, Tang Xiu immediately turned to Ji Qimei and asked. Ji Qimei frowned deeply and nodded, before she then shook her head and helplessly said, I can break this array, Lord, but there's a serious problem with it. If I were to forcefully break this array, the entire Feng Shui Great Array will be completely destroyed, and thus will sink resting Cemetery Island above, thus making everything we have previously done go to waste. Tang Xiu's expression changed. As he felt helpless and at a loss of what to do, a special wave of energy suddenly fluctuated and made his fingers slightly numb, and he perceived a hint of yearning and longing, mental mood. What is it? Tang Xiu directly opened his interspatial ring. In a flash, the rusty ancient bronze lamp suddenly flew out of the interspatial ring by itself. Just as it was about to come outside, all the layers of effulgent golden light that surrounded the seabed within the radius of several hundreds of kilometers brightly shined. In the next moment, the ancient bronze lamp suddenly lit up by itself as a small flame leaped out like a sprite. Within the flame, the Buddhist Sarira emitted out an orb of Buddha halo as it became slightly larger and then quietly suspended in front of Tang Xiu and Ji Qimei. What is this, Lord? Asked Ji Qimei, surprised. Tang Xiu shook his head since he was also at a loss. Although he had obtained the ancient bronze lamp, he had yet to study its mysteries thoroughly. He usually only ignited the lamp during his cultivation since it could enrich the heaven and earth spiritual energy around him, and also brought a tranquil effect to his mind and mental state. Buzz, buzz. A mysterious aura emanated from the Buddhist Sarira as a strand of dazzling brilliant golden light that was 100 times richer and brighter separated from it and straightly entered the energy curtain. Suddenly, a portal with the height of 4 men and 2 meters width appeared before them. Let's go inside. Tang Xiu gritted his teeth after exchanging looks with Ji Qimei and hesitating for a while. Whoosh. Whoosh. After the 2 figures entered the portal, they were immediately struck dumb with amazement by the sight presented before them. There was no seawater in the inside, but rather a space with its edge unable to be seen. There was a blue sky and white clouds inside the vast space, along with black soil and undulated ground that extended forever into the distance. Yet, not a single plant of any type could be seen on the vast mountain. Only countless tombstones and ancient burial mounds that made one feel their scalps numb. The tombs within our sight are at least as many as hundreds of thousands. What exactly is this place? Tang Xiu mumbled to himself. Lord, this is still a space on Earth, yet this pocket world is formed and attached to the barriers of the Earth's space, said Ji Qimei with squinted eyes. The aura sent out from these ancient tombs feel like they're from the distant past, as if from eons ago. Also, take a look at the characters inscribed on the tombstones, all of them are Buddhist Sanskrit. In other words, those entombed here are all Buddhist disciples. A Buddhist burial ground? Suddenly, Tang Xiu remembered the heritage he obtained from Star City's walled hill village, as it also mentioned something about a Buddhist burial ground. The contents recorded about it were very few, narrating that there was once a Buddhist world among the myriad worlds, which was also the origin of Buddhism and its core site of development. Furthermore, the holy Buddhist monk Amitabha had reached Buddhahood in the past and was once a quite famous figure in the gods' realm. Unfortunately, holy monk Amitabha committed an offense to an almighty existence in the gods' realm and was then chased down for millions of years, before eventually being unable to escape from that calamity anymore. The Buddhist world was even implicated as it was also swept away along with him, as well as obliterated countless disciples of Buddhism as consequence. Later on, a Buddhism disciple from other worlds, who found the ruined Buddhist world, eventually created a special space and carried out the construction of an unparalleled Buddhist burial ground. Unfortunately, this matter was then found out by that almighty existence. After tens of thousands of years of pursuit, however, that Buddhism disciple was able to escape. From thenceforth, there was no other news heard of him, as if he had evaporated from the myriad worlds. I never thought that that Buddhism disciple had come to Earth and even placed the special world he created here. Buddhism emphasizes on benevolence and compassion. If the Buddhism teaching were to be passed on and taught in modern society, it would have definitely brought about a very positive energy. Tang Xiu suddenly felt a bit fortunate that he didn't order Ji Qimei to destroy the array before. Otherwise, this pocket world would collapse and this monumental ancient burial ground would disappear and dissipate into nothingness. Roar! A forlorn and bitter shriek came from the distant horizon. Tang Xiu's facial expression slightly changed as his eardrums were almost shattered by merely its shrill cry. Ji Qimei flung her sleeve. After having taken measures to protect Tang Xiu, she said, "There's a life object here, Lord. Are we going there to have a look?" Tang Xiu slightly nodded and said, "Be sure to be cautious." Understood. Ji Qimei replied and then brought Tang Xiu to the distance. With her extreme speed, they traversed 1,000,000 kilometers of distance and passed by hundreds of millions of Buddhist tombs in 2 minutes. Ji Qimei suddenly came to a halt when the outline of a tall and lofty mountain appeared before them. Lord! When Tang Xiu took a look around, he saw a tall, white-headed, golden-winged great pung who was actually standing and raising its head proudly. Moppet, there cometh, 2 moppets of, human's offspring? One is a moppet of Mesmer's offspring? Interesting, interesting. The golden-winged great pung slowly lowered its head. A jerky speech came out of its mouth when it saw Tang Xiu and Ji Qimei in the distance. Tang Xiu shouted in a deep voice, "You know our origin? What thing are you? What thing is me?" The golden-winged great pang lowered its head. But after a long time, it spoke in its jerky voice again, "Me is Golden Peng from the God's realm, me not a thing. Thou actually hast his golden core Buddhist Sarira. Pity, pity, thou strength is too weak and pitiful, otherwise, me is hopeful to leave this place and returns to the God's realm." Tang Xiu was silent for a moment before speaking again. "I know about the Golden Peng, a very powerful divine beast in the God's realm. I never thought that I, Tang Xiu, would meet such a mythical divine beast like you. Can you tell me how you got locked up here?" The Golden Peng flung its head and hummed, "It's strange, me can't think of it. Methinks part mine memory has been erased. Who couldst hath done it?" Tang Xiu stared blankly and frowned before saying, "Since you can't remember it, then forget it. But you should know everything about this Buddhist burial ground, yes?" The Golden Peng's huge eyes blinked as it suddenly said, "Methinks me recalls something. Me accompanied mine master to pursue Buddha. Me be captured and latched here. Master. Mine lord. Dost mine lord, doth not exist anymore? No. It canst be." After it spoke, a large drop of golden liquid gushed out from its eyes. Tang Xiu was taken aback and dumbfounded. He didn't expect that a divine beast like the Golden Peng could actually cry. This? What kind of joke is this? For a long period of time, Tang Xiu was at a loss between laughter and tears before saying, "Okay, okay. Let's discuss the most important thing, shall we? If I can save you in the future, what benefits can you give me?" The golden Pang slightly pondered and stopped weeping. How about me help thee condense golden body? Howbeit the Buddha is frail and feeble, but methinks to can it. Tang Xiu's eyes blinked. A Buddhist golden body? What joke is this? His cultivation technique. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis was precisely a supreme god's and demon's cultivation technique to mold the body into a supreme demon body. If he were to temper his body into a Buddhist golden body, how would he practice his cultivation in the future? The golden Pang, however, was as if able to see through Tang Xiu's mind, as it said with a bizarre smile, "Interesting, 'tis really interesting. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis, eh? Thou is cultivating the heavenly art of cosmic genesis? Was it 'tis not the cultivation technique that holy monk Amitabha stole from mine master afore, and was chased and eventually slain? 'Tis is interesting." Tang Xiu stared blankly and asked in astonishment, "You know so much? But, what did holy monk Amitabha need the heavenly art of cosmic genesis for? Thou hath no ken that Buddha and demon be like north and south poles, thereupon cultivating it be like a round wheel?" The golden Pang looked at Tang Xiu as if he were an idiot. The compatibleness was what made it complete, for they were divided one another and scattered. Only Buddha that canst be compatible with demon, and thus the holy monk Amitabha canst tread on the last step to reach the supreme God level.
Ah.
Supreme God. It's the realm of me master, an existence at the apex of the God's realm.